StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get to use those personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to give unsolicited advice, if you dare. Before we get into this, I remind you all two things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation messages guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. All you got to do to receive these is be part of my texting community, which is free to join. All you have to do is text me at my number, 305-384-6894. And once we start sending that message out again, you'll be getting that straight to your phone. So again, just text me at that number right now. And when we reactivate those messages, those of you who are in my community will be getting it. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That's the place where we do all of our coaching. If you would like to have me as your direct coach, you would like to get access to all of our coaching materials, all of our training materials, all of our courses that we put out inside the university, and you like to be able to get on live calls directly with me to ask me your questions, share with me your challenges, and get my direct insights, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link is down below in the description to this episode. So with all that out the way, let's get into the topic here today, which is how to give unsolicited advice. Now, first thing I'll tell you about unsolicited advice is that you have to be very careful offering this to anyone, really, because this is really, honestly, I'll be honest with you all, this is an oxymoronic topic in and of itself, because I am not really going to tell you how to give unsolicited advice. That's not really what I'm going to do. So I guess you could say I kind of clickbaited you a little bit. What I'm going to tell you is not to give unsolicited advice. And in today's episode, I'm going to explain, actually, and I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I'm going to tell you what needs to be in place if you're going to do it. That's the best way to say it. If you want to give someone advice that they have not asked you for, there are certain things that need to be in place before you do it. And if you don't have these things in place, I suggest that you do nothing, stop, turn around, and go back to where you came from. Go to jail, go directly to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200. So I'm going to explain what needs to be in place before you ever offer another person advice, regardless of what the advice is, and regardless of who you are, regardless of who they are, and regardless of how much you think your advice will be valuable to that person or beneficial to that person. Even if you think it would be great for them, you still shouldn't give it to them unless you have the things in place I'm going to lay out here today. Okay? That is not the most important consideration, what you think or how you think it would help them or how much you think they need it. That is not the most important thing. What I'm going to lay out here today are the most important things. And again, if you are devoid of these things, offer no one any advice. Everybody got it? Good. Point number one. And understand you need all of these in place, not just one of them. Number one, topic here today is how to offer unsolicited advice, or when you should offer unsolicited advice. Number one, you must be clear on the other person's stated objectives. Let me take a sip of my water while you marinate on that phrase. You must be clear on the other person's stated objectives. Keywords: clear and stated, and objectives. 1, 2, 3. Clear, stated, objectives. What are they looking to accomplish, and why do they want to accomplish it? If you don't know, offer no advice. How are they currently going about it? If you don't know, offer no advice. What do they already know, and what is it clear that they do not know? If you don't know, offer no advice. You need to know a person's goals before you can offer them anything that you believe might help them. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see people making, especially, let's say, somewhere on the internet. Some people will just come in and leave comments. I find this happens a lot in the sports space. My background is in basketball. This will happen a lot when I put up basketball videos and other sports. I see other athletes in other sports, or people just working out, period. This happens often. When someone's doing some type of workout or sport training, random people who don't even know what the person's goal is or what they're trying to accomplish will come in with a comment offering advice. And I'm looking at the comments that people leave, and I'm thinking to myself, you don't even know what this person's trying to achieve, but you're offering them advice. You don't even know if their goal is the same thing that you think it is. Therefore, you shouldn't be offering them advice. And I don't know what it is about sports and fitness, but people seem to have this proprietary idea about offering advice to people in those spaces. Don't know if it happens as much in business. I don't see it as often, but definitely happen a lot in the sports space. If you don't know the person's goals, stay quiet. You see how it is to stay quiet? All right, if you don't know the other person's goals, stay quiet. You must know before you even think about helping them. Now, you may look at a person, and here's the mistake people make. You can look at a person and think that from what you see that they're trying to do one thing, but you may be wrong. They may be trying to do something completely different than what you think they're trying to do. And because you are unable to read and unable to notice this, you miss it, and then you offer advice that is not even based on where they're trying to go. So never offer advice until you're clear on what they, the person, believes they are doing. Not what you think they're doing, what they think they're doing. And you need to find out why they care. Why does it matter to them? Because again, their goal may not be your goal. So again, do not assume and do not inject and do not project, rather, your beliefs and your thoughts and your goals onto another person, because they may not be trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. And again, this is why you must communicate and find out, not assume. And we know what they say about assuming. When you assume, you make an ass of you and me. If you break the word down, ASSUME. Make an ass of you and me when you assume. Okay, so do not assume that you know what another person is doing and why they're doing it and why it matters to them. Without this information, let me reiterate, you are unqualified to offer advice to anyone if you do not have this information in place. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic is when and how to offer unsolicited advice. Number 2, no. Number 2, get permission to offer. You're going to offer unsolicited advice, or it's not unsolicited once you get permission. But if you have some unsolicited advice that you have not been solicited for, the next step is to get the permission of the person to whom you would like to give the advice before you give advice. If you don't have this, again, stay quiet. A simple question that you can use to get someone's permission to offer advice is this: is it okay if I offered some advice? Should I give it to you again? You need to write it down. I'm going to say it again. Is it okay if I offered you some advice? And see what their answer is. If you don't get a yes, keep it moving and keep your advice to yourself. If your advice is really valuable, you don't need to be mad at a person not wanting to receive it. You can take that same advice and give it to someone who wants it, and your value will be proven. If nobody wants it, well, that should tell you something about your value, or the value of your advice, rather. It's also tell you something about how good of a job you've done in displaying that you might be able to help people. Because if nobody's asking you for it, then maybe you haven't done a good job of displaying that you could provide value to another person, which is why nobody's asking you for your advice. And even when you're offering it, nobody's taking it. That should be telling you something. That's a mirror issue. That's not a them issue. That's a you issue. And if you can't accept that, well, hey, there's some unsolicited advice for you. All right. And this is not unsolicited because you tuned into the show. You saw the topic. So if the other person just doesn't want to hear it, that's their right. They have a right to not want to hear whatever it is that you want to say. You are not entitled to another person's ear. Everybody understand what I mean by that? You're not entitled to another person's ear. All right. They are not obligated to listen to what you have to say. Another person's not obligated to listen to your advice just because you want to give it. Okay. Now, just because you have something, it may be great. Again, go find somebody who wants it. Go find your audience. And everybody ain't your audience. Sometimes I can't tell you how many times, actually. I would run out of fingers and toes to count them. How many times I've come across someone who I could offer them a ton of advice that would really help them, but they simply didn't want it. And that's completely fine. That is their right to not want advice from me. Maybe they want it from somebody else. Maybe they don't want it at all. And that's completely fine. Maybe they're good where they're at. And I have no problem with that. And I tell you all the time, when I mention Work on Your Game University, this ain't for everybody. I'm looking for high level people. I'm looking for people who want to be advised, people who want to be coached, people who want to be pushed, people who want to be helped, and people who want to go to a higher level. That ain't everybody. I'm looking for certain individuals, not everyone. I could help everyone, but everyone doesn't want to be helped. Therefore, I help the people who want to be helped. I'm looking for the match. I want to help and you want to be helped. If we ain't eye to eye on that, I'm good. And you should be good too. And you should feel the same way when it comes to any advice that you offer. So it is their right, even if you believe that you can solve all of their problems with your worldly wisdom. Listen, not everybody wants to solve all their problems. Have you ever considered that? Not everybody wants to solve all their problems. Because if they solved all their problems, well, several things would happen. First of all, they would have nothing left to complain about or to blame otherwise, or blame other people or circumstances on if they solved all their problems. It also means that they solved all their problems, a new set of problems will come about, and they don't want to deal with the problems that they don't know about, the new ones. They rather deal with the problems that they do know about and not fix anything. Some people are okay with that. They want to stay in the same spot. That is completely all right. Even though it's technically impossible. Okay. Even though it is technically impossible to stay in the same spot. It's impossible to not grow. There's no neutral in the universe. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You can't force a person to want to get better if they don't want to. So this is a real thing that you have to be willing to let somebody walk if they don't want to hear what it is that you want to offer, or they just seem not very open to your offer of advice. And again, remember that you are not entitled to another person's ear. You're not entitled to another person listening to you, no matter what it is that you want to say, no matter how articulate or eloquent you may believe yourself to be, or smart and all knowing you may believe yourself to be. If you really are, then prove it and go find somebody who wants to hear it. If you can't find that audience, then again, that should be telling you something about you and your ability to market and sell what you know. This is a real thing, folks. And you should only share advice with someone who wants to hear it. Otherwise, you're wasting your time anyway, because they're not going to follow anything that you say. So you might as well give advice to someone who's actually going to use it. Why would you give advice to someone who doesn't want it? That's a waste of time. You can't get any social proof from it. They don't get any benefit from it. And you just used up time that you can't get back. So why would you do that? That's a lose, lose, lose all around the board. Who does that? Only people who want to lose. I don't think you want to lose, do you? Okay, good. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to give unsolicited advice. How and when to give unsolicited advice. Number 3, wash your hands. What does this mean? If you have ever strongly felt that you should give another person advice and they simply didn't want it, or they weren't really listening to you, they didn't really seem to be hearing you, you were kind of giving it, but they didn't really seem open to it, receptive to it, understand that it is not your responsibility what they do with it. If you got first step number 1, you knew their goal. Step number 2, they said you can give them advice. And step number 3, they just seem to not really be heeding what you told them, or they're not really following it, or they seem to not really be taking it seriously even after you gave them the advice. You got to wash your hands. You are not responsible for what they do with it after you give it to them. You are not responsible. I write books, for example. When I put my books out and you get a book, I tell you in the book all the stuff that you need to know around the topic. Now, if you choose to not implement what's in the book, you choose to do nothing with it, I'm not responsible for that. I gave you the book. It's your job to read it and apply it. I tell you right there in the book, read it and apply it. Now, if you don't do that, I'm not to blame. That's on you. You're supposed to do something with the material. If you sign up for somebody's course and you don't apply the material that you got from the course, is that the course creator's fault or is it your fault? It's your fault. You sign up for the gym and you don't use it and you're still out of shape 6 months later. Is that the gym's fault or is it your fault? It's your fault. That's your responsibility. You signed up for the gym to get in shape. The gym is not responsible for getting you in shape. You are responsible for getting you in shape. And if you're not in shape, don't blame the gym. Don't blame your refrigerator. Don't blame McDonald's. Blame you. Those are choices that you made. And it's the same way that you have to look at anyone to whom you offer advice, even if they ask you for it. You are now responsible for what they do with it. And you don't want your success to be hinged on what people do with your advice, because you already know. You listen to me enough, you already know. I've told you this. People are lazy. People are lazy. They are slow to act. They are slow to make decisions. They procrastinate. And they usually want to do as little work as possible. So this is the reason most people don't achieve, regardless of the resources that are put in front of them. People are just lazy. So you don't want to you don't want to hitch the wagon of your results to the effort of other people, because you're going to end up very disappointed simply because you got a business structure that's setting you up to fail. What a person does with your advice after you give it to them is not your responsibility. After they have it, it is their responsibility to choose what to do with it, why, when, and where. If they screw it up, that does not reflect on you. If I give you advice and tell you exactly what to do to get yourself in good shape between now and the end of the year, and you do nothing, that does not reflect on me, because my advice works. I can show you proof of people who actually did what I said, and I can use myself as proof. People who've done what I said, they've gotten results. Now, if you didn't get results, that's not a reflection on me. That's a reflection on you. You didn't do the work. I was just listening to this woman. She was talking at a mastermind program speaking event. And she said one of the ways that she has a membership program, group membership program, and she has this her flagship program for her business. And she said one of the ways that they reduced people canceling or asking for refunds was that she told people that if you want to cancel, you just got to show us that you did all the homework that we've assigned to you. And if you have not gotten results despite doing all the homework, then we'll gladly give you a refund. And she took her refunds down from 19% to 1% by simply telling people, okay, if you want to get a refund, you got to show us that you did the work. And all of a sudden, people stopped asking for refunds because they couldn't show that they'd done the work. Why? Because they had taken the advice and done nothing with it. Therefore, they were now unqualified to ask for a refund because they had done nothing. That's not the coaches or the program's fault. That's their fault. They didn't do anything. So she basically took herself off the hook for people signing up but not implementing what they had paid for. It's the same way you got to look at things. So what a person does with their advice after you give it to them is not your business and is not your responsibility. After they have it, they choose. Again, that's a reflection on them. And the reason why is what another person does with what you have given them is their business. It is not your business anymore. Your hands are washed. You are through with the situation. And if they do great with it, great. You can take credit for it. So this is a win-win for you. If they do great with it, you can take credit and not take credit. I mean, they get the credit, but you can use it as social proof that your advice works when someone actually applies it. And if they do nothing with it, then you are not responsible. So basically, you can't lose in this situation. But you have to have the mindset here to set yourself up to be successful. If you don't have this right mindset, then you'll mess up one of these points, and therefore you're in a lose-lose situation as opposed to a win-win. Let's recap today's class, which is how to offer unsolicited advice, how and when to offer unsolicited advice, which is really, it is what I'm telling you, but it's also not. I would suggest generally you never offer unsolicited advice unless you have these three pieces in place. Number one, be clear on other person's goals. If you're going to offer someone advice, you need to be clear on what they want to do, why they want to do it, and how they are going about it. If you don't know these things, stay quiet and offer nothing. Number two, get permission to offer advice. Simple question you ask is, hey, is it okay if I offer you some advice? If you don't get an astounding and immediate yes, then stay quiet and keep your advice to yourself. If people don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. They are not responsible for you being able to get your rocks off and serve your ego by giving advice to other people. If someone does not want to hear you, they don't need to listen to you. You are not entitled to anyone giving you their ears. And if your advice is as good as you think it is, then go find someone who wants to hear it. If you can't find anybody, what does that tell you about you and your ability to market what you know? And number three, wash your hands. Once you give advice to someone who has asked for it, you are no longer responsible for what they do with it. All right, you've given it to them, they do whatever they want with it. You sell someone a pizza, you're not responsible for them eating the pizza. All right, whatever they do with the pizza, they do. All right, they leave it on the ground and the rats get it, then that's not your responsibility. If they put it in the fridge and don't eat it for a week, that's not your responsibility. If they eat the whole thing before they get home, that's not your responsibility. All you're responsible for is delivering them or giving them a fresh hot pizza that they paid for. That's what you got paid for. Whatever they do after that ain't your business. All that said, folks, text me so you're in my community. My number's down below in the description. Also, Work on Your Game University. We have a 4-part framework based around mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. Those are the 4 pillars of what we do in our university. We are looking for top-level performers when it comes to your personal and professional development. You want to reach your goals this year. You want to reach them now instead of waiting until later and continually putting them off. Come into Work on Your Game University and have me as your direct coach, and let's get to work. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all